So, sir, as on today, there are over 5,000 homeopathic medicines already being used in the market. So, why are you insisting so hard on new drug development?
This is a good question, and yes, I do agree that I'm insisting on new drug discovery in homeopathy for last more than 2 decades. You said that there are 5,000 medicines. Nobody knows how many medicines are there in homeopathy. In the pharmacopoeia, we have 1,500 regulated medicines, and there are so many unregulated medicines which are available in the market for which we do not have clear documentation. This subject is little deep and it requires a lot of brainstorming, I would say. This is an area in which the homeopathic doctors or the practitioners have not paid much attention, unfortunately. There are many reasons why I'm insisting on new drug discovery and addition of new drugs in homeopathy. I personally believe that no system of medicine can grow without getting new drugs introduced scientifically, systematically. In homeopathy, we know that there are around 1,500 homeopathic drugs and there are close to 200 polycrest remedies such as silica, kalicarbonicum, calcarea carbonicum, sulfur, phosphorus, etc. And out of these 200 polycrest remedies, around 100 of them are developed by Hahnemann himself in his lifetime. In last 110 years, there is not a single new polycrest remedy being introduced in the system of medicine. To me, it is a serious matter. It simply shows that we have not paid any attention to adding anything new to homeopathy. There is not a single new polycrest or a drug which could be used as a constitutional medicine being introduced in homeopathy in India, despite the fact that India is the largest user of homeopathy as on today. I believe this also requires a real debate and thinking. Homeopathic medicines prepared from different sources over 150 years back. Many of these sources are less reliable now. Many of these medicines are not reproducible as on today. I'll give you an example. Hahnemann made a nosode, sorinum, somewhere in the year 1826 from the pus or a discharge from a patient suffering with scabies. This was a time when microbiology had not evolved, and a pus discharge was taken which was not microscopically examined. So we presume that it might have some parasites of scabies. But it also had a lot of other debris, proteins, other cells, and so on and so forth. That discharge was potentized and sorinum was prepared. After that, sorinum was possibly not prepared again. And even if it was prepared, we do not have documentation. So it means that the sorinum which is being used today in Mumbai or in London or in Chandigarh is supposed to be the same sorinum which descended from the back potencies of what Hahnemann made close to 200 years back. So Hahnemann's back potencies, which moved from Germany to somewhere else, a few drops, and then somebody used those few drops and made another higher potency, and then again moved from one country to another country and somebody made higher potency, and so on and so forth. Sorinum was not freshly remade. Now, this is the sorinum which we are presumably using today is a great-grandchild of what was being made by Hahnemann himself. And during this time of 200 years, 2 world wars took place. And we have no idea whatsoever about the tracking of the back potencies from the day when Hahnemann made it. To me, this is a serious matter. How can we rely on any drug which was presumably be a descendant of a medicine or a back potency which was being made over 100 years, 150 years or 200 years? This is the case with many of the homeopathic medicines which we are currently using very proudly, and we spend hours together to understand the remedy picture in the patient and match them with the remedies that we have. I have written a separate article based on the research for over a few years which talks about many such medicines which are unfortunately not reproducible, and they call for remaking of those medicines. Please have a look at that if you are a sincere student of homeopathy. Also, the drugs which we have, we know them by their symptomatology. The symptoms were produced by drug proving in those days. Hahnemann and his colleagues made excellent drug proving. However, we should also know that Hahnemann managed making the drug proving of some of the polycrests with the help of only a few volunteers. For example, he proved sulfur on I think around 3 to 4 volunteers in his time. And these 3 to 4 volunteers produced around 1970 symptoms of sulfur, which he has listed in the Materia Medica Pura, or chronic diseases. Now, I have a feeling that many of these symptoms might not be really reliable, because I have also conducted certain drug provings with the help of my team recently in last 20 years. And we know that it is very difficult to get so many symptoms. So practically every volunteer of sulfur produced 400 plus symptoms, which is humanly very difficult to document. So likewise, that is the case with many other polycrest remedies and other remedies, So that data, what we have in the Materia Medica, is not revalidated. Homeopathy, if it is to be considered as a science, then we need to reconduct the drug provings and revalidate the data what we received earlier in the previous drug provings. Otherwise, we cannot call it science. Things have changed over the last 200 years. Substances, they evolved, the plants, animal products, chemicals and minerals which were used in various sources of homeopathic medicines. Many of them have changed. I'm aware that the chemicals and the minerals, they do not change. However, other sources, they change. And there are a lot of variations. To give you an example, sepia, which was prepared by Hahnemann from cuttlefish. Now, we have no documentation from which cuttlefish he prepared sepia. As on today, there are at least 30 species of cuttlefish in the world. And he procured one from some part of the sea. So if you have to make sepia all over again today, or if somebody has made sepia, then that sepia is likely to be a different sepia than what Hahnemann made and what Hahnemann proved in the drug proving. So even if we make or remake the medicines today, it is very difficult that unless we do the fresh drug proving, we cannot match the data or effects of the new drugs with the old drug proving data. So for that reason also we need to do re-drug proving and remaking of the medicines. This is all very important work, because without that our prescribing will suffer. There are many reasons why we should have new drugs or freshly made drugs in homeopathy. These are some of them which I described to you. So-called classical homeopathy. Lot of emphasis is given on the symptoms of the mind. The mental symptoms of remedies, for example, phosphorus or silica or platina and so on. These mental symptoms which were derived from presumably drug proving in those days, and the practitioners of the last century, they made certain theories based on the symptomatology found in the drug proving, and they created, for practical understanding, certain mental image or prototype of the drug personalities or drug types for constitutional medicines. This again is somebody's theory. To give you an example, causticum is sympathetic, or phosphorus is sympathetic, or if you say nitric acid has a sense of hatred, or lycopodium is coward or dictatorial. All this symptomatology is largely clinically derived understanding about these remedies. It is very less likely that a drug proving could produce symptoms at this level, whereby one may have a sense of guilt or hatred, or one becomes dictatorial, or one becomes sympathetic or philosophical, etc. So this also requires revisiting, re-understanding at a much deeper level, I would say. So we are presuming a lot of things what is being written in the drug provings at the first place, and subsequently on the commentaries made by various eminent teachers in the past. Commentaries are commentaries. That is not the real data. Commentaries are made on the basis of personal understanding of certain teachers, on understanding of some of the patients, what they have seen and where they have used the medicines. Symptoms belonging to the patients are different than the symptoms belonging to the drugs. This fine difference has not been, unfortunately, recognized by many practitioners. What I mean by that is that if I treat a patient of Lycopodium, for example, who has a liking for multiple mobile phones, say, and he gets treated successfully for his hair loss or alopecia areata, then if I say that Lycopodium patient is one who has a liking for multiple gadgets or mobile phones, that will be incorrect. That is the symptom belonging to the patient and not belonging to the remedy. This basic truth is not probably understood well by many of the homeopaths in the past, and we have unfortunately mixed them up. What we have seen and found in the patients who get treated successfully with those medicines, with the symptoms that patients had and the symptoms they belong to the remedies. So this alignment is required, and for that also we require to relook at the new drug proving as well as the introduction of new drugs. Whatever 1,500 drugs that we have in the Maitreya Medicas and in the pharmacopoeia today, unfortunately none of them has been standardized while making them. We need to standardize each and every homeopathic drug. Of course, recent work has been done in India by CCRH and other research bodies to standardize some of these products. However, we do not have a connection between the old drug proving and the newly standardized homeopathic medicine. So that gap is existing and we need to fill up that gap. Out of all these 1,500 drugs or 4,000 medicines, what you are referring to, which is available in the markets, hardly any of these drugs have been understood in the light of the mechanism of action of these drugs. And that is a very crucial matter in my view. In today's scientific world, we must start understanding how homeopathic medicines work. For almost 2 centuries, we did not have any insights into how homeopathic medicines work. However, good news is that in the recent times, after the breakthrough findings of homeopathic medicines having nanoparticles, there is a newer understanding about how homeopathic medicines work, and some of the studies made by other scientists as well as the team of scientists at our place, we have seen and we have started understanding how homeopathic medicines work. We are able to understand to a very limited extent the mechanism of action of homeopathic medicines. Now this is very important. We need to do the same thing with every homeopathic medicine. I would like to give an example to understand this matter better. We all use tuberculinum in our practice practically every single day. We believe that tuberculinum has certain symptomatology such as desire to wander, cosmopolitan mind, anticipatory anxiety, fear of dogs, fastidiousness, and so on. And we also believe that possibly the tuberculinum which we are using is something which is freshly made. So these are all presumptions. In fact, the tuberculinum which we are using today in the market in any part of the world is actually supposed to be made from the source which was originally made by Samuel Swan somewhere around the year 1875 from the lung tissues of a patient presumably affected with tuberculosis. This was at a time when before Robert Koch found the Mycobacterium tuberculosis. So 6 years before that. So we are presuming that tuberculinum what we are using was prepared from that source, and we are using the back potencies of tuberculinum close to 135, 140 years. That tuberculinum is not reproducible as in today. Tuberculinum symptomatology what we have in Herring's guiding symptom are largely clinical symptoms, and that did not undergo any drug proving either. Now what is the answer? What is the solution to this? With our team of scientists, we developed a fresh tuberculinum, we call it Mycobacterium tuberculosis nosode, which was developed at Hafkin Institute in Mumbai. What we did, we took the strains of Mycobacterium tuberculosis. So we documented the source material. The source material was characterized as per the today's understanding of microbiology. And then it was patentized. So we have got a well-documented new Mycobacterium tuberculosis nosode, which is not the case with the old tuberculinum. Now this nosode is undergoing a process of drug proving. So we will have a placebo-controlled drug proving and the symptomatology thereof. This Mycobacterium tuberculosis nosode underwent placebo-controlled human trial, and thereby it has demonstrated its efficacy in the treatment of recurrent URTI and LRTI. So this is the way how scientific evidence is created showing the efficacy of this medicine. We are also trying to work out on to understand the mechanism of action of this drug. So all this new information has to be there for every new drug. This is an example. Another small example I would give is HIV nosode. which also underwent similar processes like Mycobacterium tuberculosis nosode. In addition, it has also explained to us how it works. So in our experiments and studies, we have shown that HIV nosode has capacity to modulate certain immunological pathways and certain topoisomerase 2 enzyme and some other regulatory molecules in the human system, and also in the cell line model, and also in the chick embryo model, and whereby it has a capacity shown to kill the cancer cells, and it has also a capacity to regulate the angiogenesis by working as an anti-angiogenetic medicine. So it stops the blood circulation to the cancer's tumor, as we have found this in the lab model. We also conducted a similar study in the animal model to see whether this anti-cancerous properties of HIV nosode is able to show any effect in animals. And our recent studies have shown it very clearly that this nosode is capable of regressing the tumor of cancer in animals, in mice. This paper is, of course, under review process now. So we need similar understanding for every new homeopathic drug, or even for every old homeopathic drug if we need to just continue that. So this is what I mean by why we require to have a new drug discovery in homeopathy. We cannot prescribe the medicines without knowing how homeopathic medicines work at the first place. Now we are entering into a time zone where this understanding is possible. Of course, it's a huge Herculean task. We may have to spend a lot of time and energy and efforts to understand the mechanism of action of each and every homeopathic medicine. For this also, we need to introduce either new drugs or we need to redevelop the old drugs. So for all these reasons put together, I am very sure and very confident that we need to introduce new drugs scientifically, systematically, with a well-regulated regulatory processes in place. It is a big subject. Homeopaths need to realize the need for this. Without this kind of fundamental work, it is very difficult that the science of homeopathy will survive. We are already facing a lot of challenges, as most of you are aware, and more challenges will come our way if we do not answer these questions about the sources of medicines, the reliability of medicine, the revalidation need for homeopathic medicines, and we also need to introduce and add a lot of new drugs from the substances, from the sources, which might make them more potent. We need more powerful medicines. The diseases are evolving. The diseases are becoming more and more complex as compared to what they were 200 years back or 500 years back. So keeping all these aspects in mind, there is a urgent need that we need to start working on developing systematically newer homeopathic medicines. I hope these thoughts shared in this video are not to criticize any person or any school of thought. These are the thoughts based strictly on scientific understanding and approach that we need to have to uplift homeopathy to the next level. Thank you for watching.